There was a time when Raw and SmackDown were separate rosters, and to see all of your favourite stars in WWE, you had to watch both shows each week. It made sense. It was a smart way to ensure both shows were must-see for fans. Alright, so Rhea Ripley somehow can't spot someone the size of Nia Jax waiting to ambush her. SmackDown wrestler Nia Jax on Monday Night Raw again, who recently got screwed out of her SmackDown title by Tiffany Stratton. But Nia Jax is just randomly here to repeat the title feud she had with Rhea Ripley last year instead. You might remember that feud. It had one of the worst main events of WWE's 2024 at that Australian show. Come on now, Triple Nose. We've seen this already, thank you. Here's a question for you. Does Netflix hate Gunther? We know Triple H doesn't. Gunther has clearly been a Triple H project for years, who has been pushed relentlessly back in NXT UK and on the main roster over the past couple of years. And yet, ever since Raw came to Netflix, there has been a strange lack of promotion for the show's top champion. At this point, the World Heavyweight Championship is barely feeling like a step above the Intercontinental Championship. And the segment here between the Chop Master and Jey Uso reflected that. This was basically an extension of last week's segment between these guys, with Gunther once again running down Jey Uso's career and accomplishments, as he always does to everyone, in the exact same style. The only time I've really seen Gunther get a bit more animated was when he roasted Goldberg back at Hell in a Cell last year. He'd benefit from showing that much personality a lot more often. Jey Uso, look, I get it. This guy is a fan favourite, no one's denying it. But does he really feel like a credible main eventer and challenger? Even if he wins this title bout, will it seem like he's a top dog? After so long in the mid-card and the tag division, it's an uphill battle to really establish him as a top star, even with all the fan support he's enjoying at the moment. Now that being said, this was a great babyface promo he cut. Best promo of the night by a country mile, although frankly that bar was not a very high one to clear. He showed fire, passion, intensity. He played to the crowd, and he had some fun with the yeet stuff. A lot of charisma on display. He knew when to keep it serious too. Him running Gunther off to end the promo added further to this. Not a bad segment overall. But there is a frustrating lack of star power and stakes in this feud for now, as its formula is just the formula every Gunther title feud has followed thus far. Bayley announced she's back on Raw. Poor Raw. As if this show wasn't dull beyond comprehension already. And again, what happened to the importance of the draft? Can people just jump show any old time they want now? There's no continuity or attention to detail here, which is very glaring, because one of the main things Triple H used to get praised for in comparison to Vince McMahon was that he had attention to detail and long-term, logical planning in his booking. Speaking of Bayley, she continues to feud with a child. I will say beating up high schoolers is legally frowned upon, last I checked, so when her and this Roxanne Perez get in the ring, it may well be a very uncomfortable watch. I'm not sure it's appropriate, frankly. Oh, and Bayley wrestled SmackDown's Nia Jax. SmackDown's Nia Jax. Again. What are we doing here? Rhea Ripley came out afterwards, and her and Nia Jax did the old Brock Lesnar special, where loads of extras come out and try and break up a big brawl between two wrestlers. And the two wrestlers jump over people to get to their enemy, or, attempt to jump, in the case of Nia Jax. And Michael Cole goes, Rhea bloody Ripley. What the hell is that? Is that the new Seth freaking Rollins? What next? Cody crying Rhodes? Ugh, anyways, Ripley was all angry. Ooh, very scary. And she demands a match at Saturday night's main event. Yet another reason I probably won't watch it. Fair enough. Decent angle, I guess, for this feud that already happened. Had some heat if nothing else. Crowds were kind of into it. This was a very masculine, aggressive segment. And that's not a criticism, to be clear. It's all good. It heated up this feud we've already seen quite a bit. The reason I point this out is because while these two threw down and got nasty to sell their beef, a lot of the so-called men this week stood around talking about their feelings and their friendships. Oh my goodness. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. What are the odds this segment is planting seeds for yet another feud between these two? Kevin Owens is crazy again now. He needs to be building up heel heat for his Royal Rumble showdown with Cody Rhodes. No one's expecting him to win, so to keep that angle interesting, he at least has to get the fan hatred going a bit more to ensure there's some good heat for it, if nothing else. And yet, he seemed quite reasonable here. This guy did not seem that crazy at all. I was expecting him to do something diabolical when he showed up, from SmackDown, like so many SmackDown people do. But no, he had a frank chat with Sami Zayn about their friendship, and basically played therapist to Zayn droning on about his dynamic with Roman Reigns over the years. Oh, and then he was supportive of Zayn winning the Royal Rumble, like a nice guy friend would be. Again, what are we doing here? What was the point of this? Owens has a full reason to go total psycho on Zayn for a change, an actual reason. Given how much he hates Cody Rhodes for teaming up with Roman Reigns, it'd make sense for him to turn on Sami Zayn. But already he's denied that. He said, oh, it's fair enough in your case, Sami, because you used to be Roman's idiot sidekick, so I get why you'd like him. And it's especially bizarre because, of course, anyone who's watched wrestling for a while knows Kevin Owens' main hobby and storyline is turning on Sami Zayn. Now, if he does, he'll look like a flighty idiot, given he just said he's not that upset about Zayn being pals with the tribal chief again. This is what happens when adults watch this show and actually think about the so-called storytelling. And here's a question. Will the dynamic between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, will it ever end? Ring of Honor, NXT, main roster, rinse and repeat. Every year some variation of these two being friends or enemies. It just gets a bit exhausting. Penta wrestled and won again. That's nice. Penta, he's alright. Making a good impression on WWE fans too, for the most part. I'd say he's a little too human in terms of his character presentation, given what a menace he can be. But he's washing the AEW stank off himself quickly, so that's something. This week he was in the ring with this channel's least favourite wrestler, who thankfully did the job to him, but frankly, regardless of what he does, that bathing suit attire is still a bloody disgrace. Okay match for what it was. With guys like this, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you're getting explosive, innovative offense that looks pretty slick. On the other hand, everything looks insanely worked, and it does not help with the suspension of disbelief at all. Something wrestling has essentially lost completely at this point, where half the time it's largely acknowledged as scripted, not only in real life, of course, but during the broadcasts as well. That's where it's really unbelievable. So Penta won, thank goodness. You can never be too sure when Pete Dunne might get another surprise mini-push no one asked for when Triple Nose is sniffing about. So CM Punk, he used to be a really good promo. Right? I haven't gone insane here, have I? I'm not hallucinating the pipe bomb and the straight-edge saviour, and even just his mic work with Drew McIntyre last year, am I? Because this promo was low-hanging fruit, as the man himself would say. A whole lot of name-dropping, from John Cena, again 2 weeks in a row, to Sami Zayn, all the way over to Hulk Hogan. It reminds me of The Game. And no, not Triple Nose. I mean The Game. The rapper 50 Cent inflicted upon the world back in the mid-noughties. This guy, time and again, would rely on name-dropping in his tracks to get some reaction out of his listeners. One of his big singles from way back in the day was called Dreams, if memory serves, and half the song was him just name-dropping other famous people. It was absurd. And that's CM Punk now, as more and more fans wake up to how grounded and kinda dull his persona and style is. Expect him to keep doing more and more of this. The epitome of a B-plus player, and he always was. Sami Zayn later came back, by the way, for more of his world feelings entertainment shenanigans, this time with Seth Rollins. The two licked each other's rear ends, figuratively speaking, thankfully. Oh, we're friends now. If I wanted to watch two grown men be pals, I'd watch a Paul Rudd comedy. Oh my goodness, where is the rage? Where is the heat? This is the most sterile episode of professional wrestling I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because I watched quite a few Raws and SmackDowns during summer and fall 2010. One of the absolute lamest periods in WWE history. Oh man, Kane saying he was the devil's favourite demon. What was that? He might as well have just put on a TNA shirt and asked the fans in the arena if it was really any worse than what they were watching right then and there. Now, before we get to the main event, Heel New Day, actually somewhat interesting. That segment where they trashed Big E for getting horribly injured was quite harsh. That got some heat. There's potential here to make these two heel heat magnets in the mid-card, sort of like what Dominic Mysterio's got going on. You know what might help that? Winning some matches. Kofi Kingston lost to Rey Mysterio here, even after Woods tried to interfere to give him the edge. Talk about making two heels look like two chumps. Weird moment near the end too, where Kingston basically no-sold the 619, got his knees up on the splash, and went straight for the pin, barely phased by getting hit with Mysterio's signature move. Very sloppy. The post-match segment helped get Kingston and Woods some heat back at least. They jump Mysterio, the LWO run out, New Day flee like cowards, seemingly. But then they come back to jump Yuck and Wild, before running off again. Made them look like a pair of absolute weasels. Which is good, this is how they should be. There is potential in this act with Kingston and Woods. They are healing it up good and proper, but they're going to need some wins and some credibility rebuilding if this act is going to land properly. So main event time, alright. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. That's a decent matchup, 2 actual stars, by modern standards at least. There was some back and forth on the outside. Rollins got some of his athletic offense in here and there. Big superplex. Why exactly McIntyre went to the top rope is anyone's guess. The superplex no-sell in a Falcon Arrow Rollins does was inverted here, with McIntyre hitting his own surprise Falcon Arrow instead, which was kind of neat in a silly no-selling kind of way. Cheeky McIntyre pokes Rollins' eye at one point, but can't put him away with the future shock DDT. Rollins wins, to the surprise of no one, via roll-up, because Drew McIntyre, you see, funny thing about him you might not have heard, he's allergic to winning matches apparently. This was a fine contest, right, if you can call a worked match a contest, between 2 talented guys who know exactly what they're doing. It's odd though, despite them both normally being pretty over with fans, the crowd was weirdly low-key and low volume for most of it. The post-match saw Rollins' new special, very close, very personal friend, Sami Zayn, run out to help him when McIntyre jumped him. Zayn wound up haluva kicking Rollins by accident. And you know, the thing with that is, we saw this already, with him and Roman Reigns, last year. Again, this episode of Raw is Rerun Mania from 2024. What is this? How hard is it to keep stuff a little fresh? Very, apparently. So yeah, very bland show, to be honest with you. Not even trolling here. I'd prefer it was entertaining, like any wrestling fan. But this stuff is just plodding and meandering, and it's especially odd given the Royal Rumble. One of the promotion's most exciting events of the year, normally, is right around the corner. Drew McIntyre, I tell you what, if it wasn't for his impressive size and charisma, we'd all be laughing at him as a demoted mid-carder at this point. The guy's a choke artist in kayfabe, and they've completely cooled off one of their more interesting characters by chumping him out so much. Now look, you've got to think they'll at least try and put their foot on the booking gas in time for WrestleMania this year, but we'll see. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go and play Fortnite, drink a Prime to keep my hydration levels up, have a Snickers, got to get that blood sugar, and then later tonight when I'm a bit tired and I want to take the edge off, I might just have myself a bottle of real American beer. Oh yeah.